Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have here for you. ISO 20022 R3 on interoperability. And get this, SEC, we got cryptos that are securities. We got the list. It's a long one too, by the way. But hey, hang on to your hat, because you know what? There's a new crypto bill out that could save crypto in the U.S., and that's no joke. Australia, successful financial transactions with the EUAD. And guess what else? Ripple dominates Australia. We're going to get into that today. And here's something else too. XRP transactions per second. You're going to want to know about it. Ripple award winning. You're going to want to know about that too. And how about a $27 XRP? Can we just get there already? Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.17 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 0.7%. Good afternoon, everybody. Bitcoin, 26,900 plus right now. Ethereum, 1815 and change. Tether market cap is 82.8 billion plus. Keep an eye on it. XRP is 46 cents right now. It's up 8.2 on the 7-day and off by 0.2% on the 24-hour here. Let's get started here. It's linked to, ladies and gentlemen, with Ripple's acquisition of Medico reflects the rising acceptance of digital assets among big institutions and the need for secure ways to hold these assets. To invest in Ripple, visit the website to link to. It is underneath of this video. You can find it underneath all my videos. But the door and the window is closing on how much Ripple private equity you're going to be able to get. We know that they intend to go public as soon as they get clarity in this case. So I'm telling you, if you're interested and you're a accredited investor, click that link to my sponsor and check them out. Well, we know that Swift is working on implementing and rolling out ISO 20022, the standard messaging language for payments, which will have the ability to accept the coding of digital assets to help move value along with that messaging. Very important to understand that way. And also understand that the ISO 20022 is in a coexisting phase right now, which means the old payment rails, old messaging system is running parallel to the new standardized messaging payment rails. And by the way, ISO 20022 has been around for more than a decade. It's just a chosen format that they're using to bring in all these other potentials and deep message data collection. So keep that in mind. And interoperability, we know that this is a key word. This is a trend, right? This is one of those key phrases you hear all the time. Interoperability will be a key theme in the near future and years to come, especially as digital assets and CBDCs come even more to the forefront. This here from R3. Take a quick listen.
So if there's a digital asset deployed on one network, on Corda, for example, but the banks using that need to settle instantly in central bank money, then it should be possible, and it is possible, to do an atomic delivery versus payment with a CBDC token deployed on a different network somewhere else. So if there's a digital...
Well, and that is important to understand, because that is exactly the job that Ripple can solve with all of the suite and full stack of products that they've launched with their new Ripple's CBDC platform and stablecoin platform. That is very exciting. But everybody's moving towards these catchphrases, right? These trend words, because they are very important to understand. However, back here at home, this is what we're dealing with in the interim. The SEC has recently classified 37 cryptocurrencies as securities, a decision with fallout for investors, exchanges, and the broader crypto landscape. And let's speak to it to the form of payments. If we get securities designation on a lot of these value protocols and assets that can actually help solve the problems that we're looking at in the future for interoperability and quick settlement, making it more efficient, secure, cost effective. If you get a securities designation, it's going to wipe that all out now, isn't it? So something to pay attention to with all of that. But nevertheless, there is somebody working hard on it. It's Tom Emmer. And today he reintroduced the Securities Clarity Act, which was out last year or the year before, one or the other there. But nevertheless, this bill clarifies the regulatory classification of digital assets and provides market certainty for innovators and clear jurisdictional boundaries for regulators. That's what we need here. Without a distinction between the asset and the securities contract, I'm going to give that again. Without a distinction between the asset and the securities contract, token projects that raise capital to fund development cannot move out of the securities framework once the project is decentralized, which hinders the utility of the project and ultimately harms token holders. The Securities Clarity Act inserts a key term in the investment contract asset into existing securities law to enable crypto projects to reach their full potential in a compliant way, allowing the United States to compete globally in this next iteration of the internet. That's what we're talking about here. And we do need that kind of clarity. And I know it was recently endorsed also by Perry Ann Boring in the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Shout out to them. But let's turn and look at around the rest of the world for a second. Let's start with Australia. Let's stick with this for a moment here. Australia has successfully made its first foreign exchange FX transaction using the EAUD as a part of a live pilot for the country's potential central bank digital currency. Now, this is exciting on its face just because of what they're telling us here. But it's also exciting because if we go back to this news, go back a little bit, Ripple now dominates Australian crypto exchange volumes. If you come back down here, we know that Ripple, as back in the 2020, the new payments platform, NPP, a payment service company owned by 13 Australian banks, including ANZ, NAB, CBA, Westpac, and the Reserve Bank, began federal court proceedings against Ripple for allegedly copying the NPP's brand. Now, the court issued an injunction to prevent Ripple's advertising in Australia's under PayID brand similar to NPP. So this is a trademark issue. But and it says it here, Ripple agreed to change its trademark brand to continue operating in Australia. But the bigger part of this is that was just a trademark issue. If you come back to this, Reserve Bank of Australia reveals the approved use cases for its CBDC pilot. Well, coming down here, according to, who is it? Dilip Rao, formerly of Ripple, CBDC Program Director with the DFCRC. The process of validating use cases with industry participants and regulators will inform further research into the design considerations for a CBDC that could potentially play a role in tokenized economy. So, look, there's been growing pains here in Australia, but it's nothing but domination at the end of the day. Ripple is a huge player in Australia, and seeing this news right here is very exciting to me, and it'd be hard-pressed for me to imagine that somewhere in this that Ripple and or the XRP ledger isn't involved. I am excited to learn more. Speaking about learning more here, Ripple CBDC head makes the case for blockchain-based money. Now, I'm not going to play the whole 20 minutes for you so you can breathe a sigh of relief, but what I am going to do is very quickly, before I play you the highlight clips here, is I'm going to give you this. This is a quick 27 seconds of a developer at XRP Ledger, and I want you to, or for Ripple, and I want you to hear what he says about the transactions per second.
It's low cost.
Can you say a number? I think I saw a block time of 1 block per second around about. What?
The previously posted, it varies depending on the usage model, but we've seen everything from sort of 1500 TPS up to many thousand, depending on the use case and deployment models. Again, it's about thinking about the problem you're trying to solve for and how do you scale it with different models.
Exactly. So we're at 1,500 transactions per second, up to many thousands. Shout out to Mr. Man for that. Give him a follow. Now let's get to the highlights here. This is a great clip. Listening to the highlights of the most recent announcements. And by the way, Ripple's been award-winning overnight. And you're going to love hearing that in a second as well. But take a listen to these highlights here. Very important stuff.
And do you kind of see, do those lead into each other? Like, is it kind of, there's a policy framework, and then that inspires, that kind of helps define the education that's needed. And then the education kind of, feeds into the use case, or should these be kind of blocked and tackled, individually?
Yeah, it's there are different schools of thoughts on that, Austin. Actually, some people sort of thinking more sequentially. I actually think that the more productive way is to have these things run in parallel, but also in collaboration. So, most of the projects that we have with central banks, we involve regulators and the private sector in those discussions, right? So I think in parallel is the way I see it being most effective.
Also, you guys are working with the central bank of Montenegro on one of these, on a CBDC for that kind of sovereign nation. Kind of what can you tell us about that initiative, maybe in light of kind of what we were just talking about, and kind of what are the expectations around that?
Yeah, we're very excited about this project. I mean, Montenegro, as well as being a beautiful country, is a very interesting sort of positioning within Europe. So they are in the process of applying for membership of the European Union. And then along with that, most likely would be, working with the European Central Bank. But they're not there yet, but they still use the euro. Sort of, I think unofficially they've been using the euro as their currency since 2002. So we've got a country here that's partly in Europe, but not fully integrated yet. And they see the benefits of having their own digital currency. Lots of different reasons for that. There's payments efficiency domestically, cross-border payments efficiency, lots of other use cases. And there's some, you may have seen it in the press, there was some discussion, is it a CBDC or is it a stablecoin? The terminology is to be determined, but it'll be a national currency issued by the central bank, and it will be pegged to the euro in some form. So, the terminology is to be determined, but it'll be a national currency issued by the central bank, and it will be pegged to the euro in some form. So, exact terminology is still work in progress, but very exciting. They were quite keen to work with us, and we're thrilled that they chose us to work with. I think one of the factors in their thinking was that we've sort of positioned ourselves to have a full platform. So we're not just supplying a ledger, we're not just supplying a payments element. We actually have this full suite. We're calling it the Ripple CBDC platform. It's what we call a full stack solution. So it has everything that the central bank and commercial banks need to manage and issue CBDC. So there's something called the issuer, which is where you do the minting and the distribution of the CBDC. Next module is the operator. So that enables you to manage the currency, perform payments and so forth. Then there's the core ledger. The ledger is sort of the fundamental technology behind it. And we've based our CBDC ledger on the public XRP ledger, which was built, primarily for payments, very fast, low cost, very sustainable. And then you have wallets, the user wallets behind it. So I'll talk to you about something we're working on in Hong Kong. It's a CBDC project that's sponsored by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority.
But listen to the different applications and use cases they're working on for it.
And we've been selected as one of the participants in the program this year, which is, we're very excited about that. But the use case is really around tokenized real estate. And it also has a DeFi lending protocol. So here you see these different elements of digital, Web3 sort of coming together. So you've got a digital currency, in this case, it's a central bank digital currency. You've got the ability to tokenize your property and then to actually take out loans against that through a DeFi lending protocol. So that's what I mean. That's what I meant earlier when I talk about platform for innovation, right? The CBDC, and the basic ability to do a payment and settle in a digital way is what's going to be needed to help these other Web3 applications come to reality. So that's a super exciting one that's sort of hot off the press this week. The other thing is that why I think commercial banks are so interesting here is if you think about the different types of digital money that are emerging. So you have CBDCs, and obviously commercial banks have a role there.
Very quickly, commercial banks he's talking about, not central banks. And listen to what he says about doing central bank pilots and commercial bank relationships.
You have stable coins, which are becoming more regulated, and they'll, almost certainly in certain markets, banks will participate more with stable coins than they have done in the past. And then you have tokenized deposits. So a lot of the money in the money supply is tokenized deposits are used by banks for lending and other purposes, and I think that will become tokenized as well. So commercial banks, totally right in the bullseye in my mind, and I think a lot of them are realizing that and realize that CBDC is happening. So therefore, they're starting to lean in and be part of the conversation. And in fact, all the projects that we run with central banks, there's always at least one commercial bank in that project because of the role that they will be playing.
There's always at least one commercial bank in the central bank pilots because of the role they'll be playing.
Starting to lean in and be part of the conversation. And in fact, all the projects that we run with central banks, there's always at least one commercial bank in that project because of the role that they will be playing, moving forward. Be careful what you ask. I would just reinforce a couple of things. I think one is the platform launch, right? So Ripple central bank digital currency platform. It is a full stack, and it would be great for your viewers to take some time to take a look at that and and see how that might help them. And if you have questions, ask us.
And there's that right there. And shout out to James Wallace, because it's bigger than we realize, right? The full stack, the complement of this pilot and commercial banks. There's so much more about this that we're starting to learn little by little that gets me very excited. And what a week it's been. This is from Anthony Welfare here and Mary C. Hall. Shout out to both of them. Team Ripple CBDC are killing it. Shares the award here we won overnight, and this is James Wallace for Digital Currency Leader of the Year and Ripple CBDC Team for Best Sustainability Award for Digital Currency. How about that? A lot of technical analysts out here, $20, $22, $27 XRP. They see it. They keep talking about it. I know all of us are like, but when moon, right? I'm no different than anybody else. I want to see it too. But I'll tell you this. I know in order to see it, we have to see real adoption. We have to see real use. We also have to have some clarity in this case. But one thing I'm very excited about is what we're learning more and more about Ripple and the new launch of the Ripple CBDC platform, the use of the full stack of products, which does have access to the XRP ledger and XRP, should the customers choose to use it. And that's exactly the way we would want to see it, right? And I think to myself, when we see the volume come and the adoption happen and a little bit of clarity for us, or a lot of bit of clarity, at least for XRP, what do you think could happen? I personally believe $27 is low. Now, I do plan to take some profits. I've sat through 2 bull markets or bull runs and didn't take any profits. And this time around, Bradley's going to take some profits. I can tell you that. But nevertheless, I do believe that long term, the ultimate goal for me is hopefully to never have to sell my assets outside of my shallow bag. But I do know this. I believe XRP can achieve 4, 5-digit prices, just like we see other cryptocurrencies with less the technology and development and partnerships. Not financial advice from me or anyone else, just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.